Hi everyone, you're probably sick and tired of watching my noise videos. They might be way too competitive or too boring. Either case, I'm bringing you back my professor. It's been a long time since I touched this ID. I gave up hope on it. I'm now back. And since this is the first time I'm playing this deck, I'll need to give a quick introduction. Basically, it involves Cerberus breakers as the main way to get into servers for cheap. And money-wise, this deck is almost entirely fueled by Aesop's Pawn Shop and KD Jones. So there are lots of cheap programs in here, 0 to 2 costs, splash from other factions that give a good effect when played, or like Lamprey, when you run HQ, the corp loses money. But in addition, when they run out of use, for example, if the corp ices up HQ too much, or if the corp has so much ice that Data Sucker is not worth it anymore, I just pawn it off for 3 credits every turn, clickless credits. So that's basically how my deck works. Not too much to say about my opening or mulligan hand. They both are pretty terrible, although that is to be expected given that I'm running pretty terrible cards all around. Lots of programs that don't have much use, and yeah, not much burst in the way of burst. Thankfully, my first draw nets the show gamble, so now I have a very good start. I can actually afford to threaten to trash Jackson by running it, and then I install Aesop's Pawn Shop. Now, Aesop's is the backbone of this deck. 3 Aesop's Pawn Shops, they don't cost influence, but they take up a lot of valuable deck space for a card that is unique, where duplicate copies are useless. It is absolutely essential, because once I start installing programs like your typical noise programs like Imp and Cash, once they are fully exhausted, you can pawn them. Or if they are no longer useful, pawn them as well. Alright, he shows me his ice suite, which is pretty curious. He's playing Cerebral Imaging, and you expect pretty big eyes from him, but he's showing me small eyes, Quandary and Eli. Very interesting. So I draw up. I need to find my diesels and quality times that will give me much more efficient card draw. This corp is definitely not going to play into my Astrolabe too much, so I'll need to draw a lot of cards myself. I install my cheap stuff, including the cash, which bumps me back up to 8 credits. Pretty good stuff. Best thing is, I can pawn it right away, and I'll be at 11. I need to match him in credits, pretty obviously. There's a very good chance he's running Scorched Earth, especially when you see the subliminal messaging. You have got to figure that he is running the Sea Scorch combo, and he will take you down if you don't have enough credits. This deck packs 1+ Creed Carapace, but I'm not going to rely on that. I know my Professor deck doesn't really make money very easily, but I think I can get away with hitting KT Joes every turn. That should really help. I draw into quality time, I play a show gamble, I play my Djinn, and I host the Origami. Yes, Origami is a new include. You might think, why the heck do you spend deck space on Origami when you're only restricted to 1 copy of it? That'll give you only 1 more hand size. That's useless. 2 reasons. Firstly, the extra hand size goes so well with quality time. Because of that, I didn't have to discard last turn. Look at my hand. It has 6 cards. More importantly, when I'm done with it, when it's not useful, when I'm not against any threat of Sea Scorch or any flatline combo, I can pawn it for 3 credits. It's an easy mark. So it's fantastic. It's absolutely worth including. The only question is whether there are better programs out there. And so far, Origami proves to be pretty decent because it allows me to maintain so many cards in hand. Look at the cards in my hand right now. I definitely want to keep the David and Medium in hand as a surprise against this corp. And the draws of quality time and scavenge are necessary. Quality time to draw and scavenge to recur my Cerberus breakers. Alright, because he attempted to play Moshin no Shin, I get to draw 1 more card with Astrolabe, and I see my second Cerberus breaker, the Code Gate. So at this point, I'm not sure if I should run that remote or not. If it's an agenda, I'm pretty screwed. If it's not an agenda, well, it's probably Cerebral Overwriter or Aggressive Secretary, both of which I definitely don't really want to hit. Aggressive Secretary is not that. Aggressive Secretary is a little crippling, but it's not that bad. Cerebral Overwriter is bad, but not irrecoverable. This deck can actually afford to run 2 advanced Cerebral Overwriters because of Origami. As long as I keep it on the board, I have a 6 hand size, I can afford to take 6 brain damage without dying. So yes, it does end up being a Cerebral Overwriter, and I lose 3 cards from my hand, unfortunately. That's a problem. I lose both my scavengers and the David. That was painful. Yeah. I definitely... Yeah. Sorry. This deck really relies on Scavenge and Clone Chip. Those are very key cards that I definitely do not want to get sniped off from my hand because there's no Levi in this deck. If I run out of recursion, my breakers run out of power counters, that's the end of the game for me. The theory is I should be able to get to 7 agenda points by the time my recursion runs out. So hopefully I can continue on without those 2 scavengers. In the meantime, I'm drained down to 0 credits after installing all the Cerberuses, and I finally found my Sahasrara. That's the card that keeps this deck going. With Sahasrara, I can afford to install all the 0 to 2 cost programs for free, and then pawn them next turn with Aesop's Pawn Shop. That is my economic backbone. That is what is supposed to drive this deck. And when I'm done installing programs, because I have my entire rig out, I can pawn Sahasrara itself. So there is incredible synergy with all the cards in my deck. Trouble is, it takes a very long time to set up. Thankfully, I'm playing against a slow cop myself. He needs to set up, he needs to get more than enough credits to threaten Sea Scorch, he needs to get enough biotic labels in hand to start scoring his agendas. So right now I can't run yet. I'm not in the healthy credit range just yet. I draw up. Remember that I've already sustained 3 brain damage, so I do not want to overdraw. I cannot afford to trash my medium, my quality time, or my scavenge. The medium can go into the heap, I can rescue it later, but I'd rather save my recursion for Cerberuses, and more importantly, the medium should be a surprise attack on R&D. So I just end up clicking for credits, because I'm not seeing my plus crit carapace. That's the only way I can get closer to even feeling safe about making a run. But now that I think about it, I saw the Mushin no Shin from his hand. Is he really playing a Sea Scorch deck? Do you really think so? I'm not sure. That's 2 influence for Mushin no Shin. 3 copies would be 6 influence. You won't have enough to play Sea Scorch, to include Sea Scorch along with Mushin no Shin after that. And think of all the cards that you have to include for Mushin no Shin to work. You want to have the Cerebral Overriders. How many deck slots is that? He might be running a completely different strategy. So with that in mind, I unloaded KT and unloaded my SMC for the Cerberus. Notice that I unloaded it before his turn started because I wanted to take advantage of the recurring credits on Sahasrara. Then, with my new Sahasrara credits, I install medium and make a run for R&D. So yeah, if he has a Sea Scorch combo in hand, I'm dead. He only needs 1 Scorch Turf to finish me off, so I can only hope that he doesn't run it. And I don't see anything of value, but at least I charge up the medium, so I'm forcing him right now to place more protection on R&D if he doesn't want to get medium, if he doesn't want my medium to go out of control. In the meantime, it's time for me to recharge. I had to unload Kitty Jones for that 1 run and it was pretty costly because of Lotus Field. Blue Cerberus isn't the most efficient breaker, especially against single subroutine code gates. I lost 2 Blue Cerberus tokens on that run. Only 1 more run on R&D I can afford to make before Blue Cerberus is nullified. That's a problem. So yes, I spent 1 turn recovering and he played Seesaws. That is very unfortunate for him because he forgot that I did not make a run last turn. As a result, he's not able to flatline me. But because of this mistake, he gave away the fact that he's running Sea Scorched. So that really helped me out because if he didn't play that, I might have continued running his central server, falsely thinking that I was safe. So now I know that he has at least a Sea Sauce and a Scorched Turf in his hand, and that is something to be wary of. Alright, so in the meantime, he gets more subliminal messaging money, and advances a card. And advances it again. Do I run it? I don't think I do, obviously because if I attempt to run it, I'll get Sea Scorched out. I play the Diesel and I cannot find the plus crit, so I'm not running it. Instead, I'm going to host the Data Sucker. I'm going to pawn that very soon. There is not much point in keeping the Data Sucker on the board. Both HK and R&D are very well iced, and running archives just for Data Sucker tokens isn't going to be worth much. It was indeed an agenda, and he scored it uncontested. I couldn't afford to contest it because I couldn't draw into my single copy of Plascrete, despite digging through 3/4 of my deck, more than 3/4 actually. So that was very unlucky for me, and I forgot to draw with Astrolabe as well the previous turn. So very unfortunate, but well, that's the way it is against a CI Scorch deck. You've got to have the money, otherwise you're not going to be able to keep up with them, or the Plascrete for that matter. So I do pawn off the Data Sucker as I mentioned, I quality time, and I finally see the Plascrete. Goodness me, about time. And I install the next Sahasrara, and then I realize I need to discard some very valuable cards. I know that I'm out of recursion. I need to discard 2 cards. So I guess I'm pitching 1 Clone Chip. I have 1 Clone Chip on the board and 2 more pieces of recursion, and then I decide that that's enough. I went for the Plascrete instead. Now, it seems obvious to discard the Sneakdoor instead. You can rescue it with Clone Chip at any time. Why would you ever discard the Plascrete? Well, that's simple. Right now, Plascrete doesn't really matter anymore. Yeah, because he actually spent his last... Yes, because now he plays a Biotic Label, and as a result of that, he's becoming pretty poor. He's down to 10 credits. But this also tells me something. If he's playing his Biotic Labels, he's reducing the threat of Sea Scorch to nothing, but that means that he's ready to win the game. With 10 credits, he can Biotic Label 1 more 3/2 out to win the game, and that is something I should be really concerned about. So I have to make a run this turn, whether or not I like it. So I start fishing out an imp from my R&D. It was still lying in my R&D, and then I make a run on HQ. Now this is pretty important. My goal here is to snipe off his Biotic Label. I know he has a Biotic Label in hand because he was in such a hurry to score that Vitruvius. He knows that I was playing passively this entire game. If he's playing so aggressively, it must mean that he's ready to win. And this is my best shot of stopping him. Running HQ and finding the Biotic Label. Because of my last turn run, I was down to 1 power token on my Blue Cerberus, and the Enigma in the middle stopped me. That was unfortunate, but the good news is it puts him at 6 credits, which is just 1 shot of winning with Biotic Label, so that's a good thing. So now, I basically, with the HQ threat of Imp trashing his Biotic Label, I bought myself 1 more turn to win the game. I mean, to at least prevent him from winning the game. I pawn my Origami and scavenge the Blue Cerberus. I need to find that Biotic Label, and I need to find it now. So 2 more runs on HQ. I have a lot of money. Hopefully I can hit it. Enhanced Login Protocol. Wow, this is a really janky deck. So many random cards in the mix. Well, I'm not going to trash that. There's a reason for that. I run 1 more time because basically the only thing I want to see now is the Biotic Label. I want to see it in the archives. I managed to hit the mandatory upgrades. Wow, okay, so this deck has Mushin Notion, Seesaw, Scorched Earth, and Lotus Fields to boot. That's pretty amazing. Well, he gets more money, and he plays ELP. Now, this tells me something. Remember, he's 2 points away from winning, so it means that he doesn't have a Biotic Label or a 3/2 in hand. One of those is missing. So right now, I'm just going to raid his HQ and hopefully snipe off the other combo piece. And this is the reason why I was not worried about ELP at all. I have Sneakdoor Beta in my hand. There was a reason why I kept it in my hand, and now it's coming into play. And because I haven't used my Red Cerberus this entire game, I'm able to break through Architect very easily. The priority requisition that he scored earlier actually really helped me because it revealed to me his archive ice, so I was able to safely run archives with full knowledge that my runs will always be successful. It made the calculations on my part easier. While the priority requisition didn't really save him too many credits from raising the architect, so that was something in huge favor of me. Now he ices out archives and pulls out a Biotic Label with Reclamation Order. Okay, so it's go time. once again, he's threatening a win on the next turn, and I have to get in. I still have one more imp token. If I get lucky, I can snipe his biotic label that he just retrieved from his hand. So now, it's the start of my turn. I decided to pawn the Blue Cerberus. This might be the stupidest mistake ever, I told him, because why would you pawn the Blue Cerberus when you need the Red Cerberus to be refreshed with Clone Chip for Architect? I was gambling that the outer ice on Archives was a code gate, and sure enough it was. This allowed me to pull out the Blue Cerberus and then install over the Red Cerberus, which I fish out with my other Clone Chip. So yeah, with that I was able to get in, spending 1 power token on each and finding the Seesaws. Right now Seesaws is pretty useless to me. If he could flatline me, he would have flatlined me long ago. So I'm just throwing caution to the wind and finding my way through with another Sneakdoor. Let's see what I access this time. Hopefully it's something that is worth imping, or a 3-point agenda which closes the game for me. Disconnect. Very annoying. I see the Seesaws once again. Goodness gracious me. At this point, I trashed the Seesaws because I knew I could not make it through the server one last time. Yeah, because I did lose 3 credits from breaking the Architect that was not reflected in the display. So I actually only had 3 credits left on my last click. I was not able to afford the final run through Sneakdoor. I would have loved to, but in the end, he did have the Baltic label and a 3-2 in hand, and he won the game from there. So yes, a very prominent display that the Professor is still nowhere near as good as the rest of the runners. It is noticeably slower than most of my other decks, and is way too reliant on drawing the correct pieces, has way too little economy. Having only 1 influence for economy really hurts. But it's pretty fun to play, and it's pretty much the only viable ID in which you can play all 3 Cerberus breakers, and it's pretty fun. The best thing is I feel that the Cerberus breakers are actually really cheap to break through most pieces of ice, because nowadays lots of runners go for taxing ice with multiple subroutines, which Cerberus counters very easily. Recursion is a problem, but this game admittedly was harder because my vital recursion pieces got sniped off by the Cerebral Overwriter. Otherwise, it would have been very easy. Scavenge allows you to refresh Cerberuses for free. Clone Chip allows you to install for basically free with Sahasrara. So it's all good, basically. It's just that this game wasn't able to access the correct cards. Hope you tune in next time for more Professor action. This will probably be the deck I'll play when I feel like letting my hair down, and hopefully you enjoyed some of it as well. Thanks for watching and happy net running. Goodbye.